Okay, so the last workshop was all to do with a top-down approach, which is thinking, decision-making, problem-solving from the top. So using your head, cognitive processes, okay? And like I said, sometimes it's very hard to do that if you've just gone too far and you're kind of spiraling, okay? So this workshop is all about physiological stress, what we can do to manage the mind, but also manage the body, stored stress in the body as a result of how we're feeling, as a result of how we're thinking. So we're using the body to manage the mind. So let's look at the relationship between movement, breath work, heat cold exposure, to manage stress levels, to manage spiraling, to manage unhelpful thinking, when we're not in a position to manage the mind with the mind, because sometimes that's too difficult. So the point of these workshops is to give you loads of different tools, so that when you're in a position to sit down, journal your thoughts, challenge your thought patterns, you can use CBT. When you're not in that position and you just need an immediate interruption of your thoughts, or you need to release emotion that you're feeling in the body, you can go to the body. Okay? So, we've gone through psychological stress in the last workshop. This is all to do with your physical stress stored in your body. So how can our thoughts and experiences create negative emotions that are stored in our body? And how can we release that stress using body up based practices? So the last workshop, CBT, top down. We're solving from the head. Body up is solving using the body, okay? How can we release that stress using the body? How does stress even show up in the body? So again, like the last workshop, you need an awareness. How do you even know that you're feeling a certain way? What does it feel like? Where do you feel it? How is that impacting you? And how can we target what you're feeling and manage it? So yeah, recap on the first workshop there, how we interpret scenarios. That in itself can create stress, distorted thinking, unhelpful thought patterns cause stress in themselves. And those are imagined stories, they're imagined events. So getting anxious is worrying about something in the future that hasn't happened yet. You're worrying about something that may happen, but most likely won't happen. So it's not actually in front of you, okay? So that's how unhelpful thoughts cause stress. You go there in your mind, you think, oh my God, this is going to happen. And even though it's not in front of you, you start to create that picture in your head. And the stress response comes as a result of you going there in your mind. And then you start to physically feel stressed. Those are imagined scenarios. However, of course, there are real life scenarios. So actual real life scenarios, stressful situation, you get made redundant, boyfriend cheats on you, even an injury, like you getting an injury is a physical trauma or stressor. Any trauma from childhood, adulthood, whatever. So these are real life scenarios where, and also of course, emotions, okay? So any disruption of your body being in balance is a stressor, whether that's a thought, psychologically, or actual scenarios here. No matter what it is, whether it's an imagined event from an anxious thought or an actual event where you got let go from work, your body reacts the same way because your body isn't able to tell the difference between real and imagined. Your brain just detects threat. Anxious thought is threat. Negative thought is threat. Car pulling out in front of you is threat. And your body will go into fight or flight mode no matter what the threat is, okay? And emotions are a big part of that as well. And when we go into the stress response, I'm going to show you what that looks like, what that feels like, the symptoms. So what do we feel in our body when we're stressed or when we feel uncomfortable emotions? So the last workshop was this section here. Now we're going on to emotions. What were you feeling and how that feels in your body? And whatever you feel in your body will give feedback to the mind. So you'll have physical sensations in your body that will feed back to your mind, and your body will be like, oh, why am I feeling this way? I must be in trouble, because your body can't tell that it's just an anxious thought. It just knows that you're in danger because of how your body is feeling. And the same goes for your mind. Anxious thought puts body in stress response, okay? So I'm going to go through the nervous system quickly, not in huge detail. So we've got the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Within the peripheral nervous system, you've got something called the autonomic nervous system, which controls all our involuntary processes, breathing, heart rate, digestion, etc. And the stress response is when the sympathetic branch of your autonomic nervous system is activated. And that happens when we're stressed. Again, whether that's a negative thought, whether it's an imagined scenario or an actual threat, the result is the same, the stress response, okay? And that looks like heartbeat beats faster, more blood is circulating around your body, because your body is getting ready to run from a threat, or what your body thinks is a threat. Fast breathing, sweating, digestive system slows down because your body stops all of the systems that aren't needed for immediate danger. You don't need to digest food when you're running from something or when you're in survival mode, okay? So the reason that you have all of these side effects is because when the stress response is activated because of the stressor, it releases all these stress hormones into your body, adrenaline, cortisol, etc. And that's what these are the effects they have on your body, okay? But it also looks like you getting sick frequently, and you have issues with your hunger, issues with fullness, issues with your weight, not recovering from training sessions or getting injured at training sessions, digestive issues, constipation, or you know yourself when you're really, really anxious, even though there's no threat in front of you, you will need to go to the toilet, or you might even get diarrhea because of the adrenaline pumping through your body that disrupts your digestive system. And sometimes people get constipated when they're stressed, sometimes people get diarrhea, okay? So all of these are an example of chronic stress. So when stress builds up, it also impacts our cognitive function. Sleep is crap, brain fog, not thinking clearly, snappy emotional reactions. They're all examples of stressors that have been built up. And because of the world we live in, when we experience stress, you're supposed to complete the cycle of stress, which means you're supposed to come back down off that stressor. So you have a stressful situation, you're supposed to be able to relax out of that situation and back to your balanced state, homeostasis. But because we're always on the go, we've a million things on, we've got training, we've got meetings at work, we've got kids, we've got, partners, fighting, whatever. We're constantly in a cycle of stress and we don't get a break. And it means that the stress response is never complete because we're always on the go. So those are all the symptoms of stressors, both short-term and long-term, which can come from just our thinking or actual scenarios. So how do we know what emotions are? What do they feel like? How do we identify them? How do we manage them? Emotions are how we as an individual deal with situations that we find personally significant. And so remember in the last workshop, I was saying that, 3 people or 5 people might experience something in different ways. Something that might make someone else really emotional would not make me emotional. And a good example of that might be because of my nursing background. I've been exposed to a lot of illness, pain, experiences with parents, let's say. And so someone that hasn't been exposed to that and sees an accident or sees someone hurt might get really upset by that, whereas I might not because I've been exposed to it and I'm more used to it, okay? So people have different emotional responses based on their own individual interpretation of scenarios. So on this chart here, I'm going to go through a couple of different emotions. So this is bringing about a little bit of awareness about what you might be feeling. So note here that I've got energy. This will be important for workshop 3. But we've got high energy emotions or low energy emotions, or basically the energy that those emotions can give or take from us. So we can have high energy negative emotions and we can have high energy positive emotions. So, when you're really surprised or excited or enthusiastic or anticipating something, that's very high energy. You're looking forward to it, you're exhilarated, elated, excited. They're high energy, positive emotions. But anger is a very high negative emotion. Same energy, different impact. So when you're enraged, when you're really angry, when you're really stressed, when you're frustrated, annoyed, all of those are high energy negative emotions that match the energy of feeling really excited. When we're down here, we can have low energy, positive and negative emotions. So lonely is a very low energy emotion. Like you just sit there, you don't want to do anything because you're feeling crap. That's a low energy, unpleasant emotion. But so is calm, feeling peaceful. That is very low energy as well. So you've got your high energy and your low energy emotions, positive and negative. And they build up in your body, okay? So when you have a stressful scenario, the stress response is triggered, and that stress response could be triggered by emotions alone. And we've got all these hormones flowing around our body, the fast breathing, the stress response have just gone through there, floating around your body. And we can use body up practices to counteract that stress response, to complete that stress cycle that we usually never get a chance to complete because we're always on the go. And they're called body up practices, or it's a body up approach. So it means that we use the body to try to reduce all of the side effects I just went through, your fast heart rate, your fast breathing, the energy of the emotion that you're feeling and the charge it's giving you, especially when you're like really angry. You want to be able to bring yourself back down. And physical experiences have a really significant impact on our emotions. And like we know that how we feel impacts how we think. So we need to regulate our emotions in order to regulate how we're thinking. Okay, and this is why I have to do one workshop after another, because it wouldn't make sense to explain all of this without doing the thinking workshop first. So we can use breath work, we can use heat cold exposure, and we can use movement. These are just the ones I do when I'm do in the BPM method. There's other practices that are body up approaches, but I'm only focusing on the ones that I use to explain why they work and how you can use them. So, breath work, exercise, ice baths or sauna can be in there as well, heat or cold exposure. Any practice where we are coming out of the mind and into the body can be considered a body up approach. And that's why we can use a body up approach not only to release stress, release emotions that we're feeling in the body that maybe have been built up for months and months, even years. We can also use the body to manage our mind when there's too much going on with our mind, that spiraling I was talking about, we can use the body up approach as well. So why do they work? So really quickly, for example, heat and cold exposure. So that could be a cold shower, it could be an ice bath, it could be sauna, it could be a hot bath. Why does heat and cold exposure help us? Well, it helps to counteract the stress response, okay, is the main reason for all of these practices. So like I said, when we experience a stressor, whether that's negative thought or someone pulls out in front of you in a car, you get that immediate rush of stress hormones. And if you leave those circulating in your body without completing the stress cycle, that's when you get the long-term effects of chronic stress, which I went through earlier. So heat exposure and cold exposure triggers the release of endorphins. So there's loads of chemicals going around your body when you do these practices, and they're the chemicals that we need to counteract the chemicals from the stress response. So they will elevate our mood, they will activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest mode. So stress response is fight or flight. And in order to get out of that mode, we need to activate rest and digest. And heat and cold exposure do that. They are hormetic responses, hormetic stressors. They are purposely stressing the body to de-stress the body. I know that sounds weird, but putting yourself in an ice bath is stressful. Putting yourself in sauna is stressful because you know when you get to that point where you're like, oh, I need to get out. And they're positive stressors to build yourself up and help your body adapt to stress in the long run. So if you have racing thoughts, if you are at home and you go into a cold shower, those thoughts will be gone in 30 seconds, at least for the time that you're in the cold shower. Even getting out for a walk, I'll go into the movement section in a second. Movement, heat, cold exposure, and breath work all take us out of the mind and regulate how we're feeling in our body. So, as well as that, all of these practices improve your heart rate variability. And your heart rate variability is the #1 indicator of how well your nervous system is functioning. Okay, so how well you're able to deal with stress. So stress disrupts your nervous system, and so we want to be able to bring it back into balance, reduce those levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. This one then is movement, okay? So movement, same thing, releases endorphins, reduces levels of cortisol, that stress hormone. So that'll take us out of that fight or flight mode. And again, it just provides a distraction from stressors. So if it's thinking, go for a walk, get out of the house for 5 minutes. You will get away from your thoughts if you start to move. Exercise stimulates the release of endorphins, natural mood booster. So if we're thinking shit, we're going to feel shit. Of course, we want a mood booster. And physical activity increases blood flow to the brain. So those unhelpful thought patterns or any form of stress blocks cognitive function. We want to be able to regain cognitive function so that we can actually deal with the problem, get blood flow back to the brain, reduce that stress response. When we have so much circulating cortisol in the body, you cannot think clearly. It blocks your brain from working, basically. And again, movement activates the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting relaxation and reducing stress levels. They all do the same thing. I'm just going through a couple of benefits of each one. Okay, so breath work now. We're going to be taking our heart rate, and then we're going to do a little breath work practice. And the reason that breath work helps to release those emotions that are stored in our body, that stressful feeling, tight muscles, all the effects that I was talking through earlier. When you're really stressed, most common ones are racing heart rate, tense muscles, even pain, inflammation, looking puffy. They're all signs of the stress response. And breath work is another practice that helps us regulate the stress response, regulate our emotions, come out of the mind, come into the body, be present, because unhelpful thoughts are often depressive thoughts and anxious thoughts. Depressive thoughts are you're putting yourself in the past, thinking and worrying about past events. They're not here right now. They're over, but you're putting yourself in an event from the past. Anxious thoughts are a problem of the future. You're putting yourself in the future. And so you're not present. So breath work helps us come out of our brain, not out of our brain, out of our head and into our body and focus on the present so that we can really get in tune with how we're feeling and what we're feeling and how to change how we're feeling to feel better so that our thinking is also a positive side effect of feeling better. So as well as that, all of these practices stimulate the vagus nerve, which is your communication center between your brain and your body. And we can release emotional blockages with breath work as well and access the subconscious mind. So just by breathing, we have access to our subconscious mind, which influences our thought pattern as well. And our thought pattern influences our subconscious mind. So we're gonna take our heart rate and then we're going to do a little breathwork practice. Okay, so I'm just going to come out of here for a second and I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. I need to share my music. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our heart rate, okay? And if you haven't taken your heart rate, a manual one, you can either do on your wrist, but I often find your pulse on your neck is much stronger and easier to take. So if you put 2 fingers here, just move them around a bit, you should be able to feel your pulse, okay? We're going to do a 1-minute timer and I want you to count the beats in 60 seconds. And then I'm going to do a little breathwork practice and then we're going to do it again afterwards, okay? So what I want you to do is just move around your fingers so that you can find your pulse. Can't even show you properly. Just around there. And if you can't find it, just push a little harder. It's definitely there. And I'm going to put it on the timer in a second and just count your beats. And then I'm going to get you to write it in the chat. And then we're going to do a 5-minute breath work. Very easy breath work, okay? So when you're ready, put your 2 fingers on your pulse. Ready to go in 3, 2, 1. And just count your own beats. Halfway. And stop there. So whatever number you got, I want you to type it in the chat. And then we're going to do a little breath work. Lovely. And you don't need to prepare for the breath work now or anything. It's going to be very easy. I'll explain it first. All we're going to be doing is, all I want you to do is sit up straight, make sure you're not hunched over, because otherwise your breathing will be impacted. We're only going to be breathing in and out through the nose for 4 counts in, 4 counts out, then 5 counts in, 5 counts out. It's going to be very easy. So don't worry about the breath. It's not a deep breathwork session. I just want to show you. Let's see what happens after we do the breathwork. I'm also going to play a little healing frequencies. So if you have time, you'll understand why the healing frequencies are important for the next workshop, which will be the shortest one. So I appreciate everyone staying this long already. Okay, great, everyone, that's brilliant. I'm just going to share my computer audio because I just want to play this song for you. I won't turn it up too loud, just very briefly. And we'll just do 5 minutes. Okay, I'll leave that playing in the background, not loud. And what I would say is close down your eyes as well, because you actually don't need to see me. I'll just direct you. I'm going to be breathing in and out through the nose only. And all we're going to do is breathe in for 4 and out for 4, but I'll direct you with that counting. Find it's too quick, just to count of 3 in and 3 out. So we're focusing on this equal counts on the inhale and the exhale to start. Then we're going to increase a little, but I'll guide you along. Close down the eyes, make sure you're sitting up nice and straight, or if you're on a bed, lie down nice and straight, relax your shoulders. And I just want you to bring your awareness to the space between your ribs and your belly button, where the diaphragm is located. Close your mouth, close your eyes. Slowly breathing in through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out through the nose. 2, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Try to deepen the breath. Make it nice and slow. Breathing out. 2, 3, 4. In. Out. In again, nice and slow for a count of 4. Breathe out for a count of 4. On this next inhale, we're going to increase to a count of 5. So nice and slow. Tune into your breath, tune into your heart, tune into your heart beating. Still on equal counts for the inhale and the exhale. Just increased to a count of 5. So I'll guide you again. Breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Out into the belly, out of your ribs, nice and slow. 2, 3, 2, 1. 2 more, breathing in and out for 5. And then we're going to extend the exhale. Focus on the sensation of the air moving in through your nose. Noticing that the air is cooler on the inhale, warmer on the exhale. What we're going to do now is still breathe in for 5, but we're going to try and exhale for 7. If you can't make 7, just try and do 6. So breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathing out 7, 5, 4, 2, 1. Breathing in slow, deep breath. 4, 5. Nice and slow, controlling your breath in the exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale out slowly, slowly, slowly. Control the breath. 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 more. In for 5. Nice and slowly. Last one. Slow, deep breath. Round your way. And breathing towards your feet. Slow exhale. Last exhale. Slow. 3, 2, 1. Keeping your eyes closed. Go back to normal breathing. Taking a second here. Noticing how you feel in your body. Noticing any physical sensations, any tightness. Maybe you can get relax them, but you can put it out. Just notice how you're out of your head and in your body. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Take your time. And what we're going to do now is we're going to retake our heart rate. So we're going to do the exact same thing again. So when you're ready, we're going to retake your heart rate in 3, 2, 1. Halfway. Okay. So whatever number you got, pop it in the chat again. If you have the first one, write the first one first and the second one second. Otherwise, you can just scroll up and see your previous heart rate. And then let me know, is it the same? Is it more? Is it less? Oh, wow, 63 and 51. Oh, I'm loving these. Amazing. Brilliant. Great. So there's one or two. Okay, great. So basically what this is showing you is proof of what I explained. And sometimes I'm not great at explaining things, and so it's better to just do the thing and show you that it works. So the whole purpose of that exercise was to show you how you can get out of your mind and into your body, and the effect that these practices have on your nervous system. The reason that your heart rate is lower, even if it's just 1 or 2 beats, there's 1 or 2 people that have a higher heart rate on the second one. And that's okay. The majority will be less on the second round. And obviously I can't see how you're breathing or anything like that. So especially if you're a mouth breather and you go to breathe through the nose, that's actually going to create a little bit of stress, which will make your heart rate go up a little bit. So don't panic if your heart rate was a little bit higher on the second one, don't worry. 9 out of 10 people here have a lower heart rate on the second round because that breath or any slow intentional breath activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest or digest mode. So you basically just took yourself down a couple of notches with regards to your heart rate. So even if you didn't feel stressed this morning, you are less stressed now, or more relaxed, should I say. The lower you can get your resting heart rate, the better the longer you will live, basically. So there's some there that have gone from 72 to 51. That's a big jump. That's like over 10 beats. And if it's only 1 or 2 beats that it's gone down, doesn't matter. All it matters is that you're getting it down. And so that's proof that these are practices that restore balance to the nervous system, take us out of fight or flight. And again, you don't have to be in immediate threat. Actually, the biggest problem is that we're in that constant fight or flight that we don't notice it as much. And this is one way that you can do that. When doing breath work, can you do that exact breathing with your mouth if you are a mouth breather? You can, but you should practice going back to nose breathing, because mouth breathing keeps the stress response going, actually. So you should try to swap over to the nose unless you've actually got deviated septum or an issue with breathing through your nose. And hopefully everyone felt the being out of your mind as well. It would be very unusual for your heart rate to go down that much and not feel the impact mentally as well. Even if, like, we literally just did 5 minutes. But it just shows you when you are highly stressed, when your brain is all over the place, spiraling with negative thoughts or whatever it is, or you've had a really stressful day at work, you had an actual really stressful day, something like breathing can just help us bring us back into balance. Your heart rate is a reflection of your nervous system and how well you're coping. So this is proof here in the chat that the breathing exercise you just did, which was so basic, has gotten your heart rate down a good few beats in just 5 minutes. And that means that you will have completed that stress cycle.